Hi everyone, I am your host, Jade Haggard, podcasting from Art Universe Laboratory. Welcome to Artist Solace. Hello again, and thank you for listening to episode 18 of Artist Solace. On this week's episode, I have a conversation with Becky Archibald of Indianapolis, Indiana. Becky is originally from Anderson, Indiana, and is an award-winning pianist, composer, recording artist, and educator. We learn about her amazing journey of teaching, performing, and composing, and what inspires her along the way. We also find out what she does to pull herself out of the hard times. This was a fun conversation. I love talking about music and all its complex and dynamic aspects. I hope you take the time to listen and are able to extract some inspiration, insight, and advice while listening to her story. Thanks, Becky, for inspiring me to be authentic and genuine in my own pursuits. There is tons of information about her at beckyarchibald.com. She has some impressive experience and musical talent. Go check it out and enjoy. We are here at Art Universe Laboratory recording another episode of Artist Solace. Today in the lab, I have Becky Archibald of Indianapolis, Indiana, joining me to talk about her life of music. She is an award-winning pianist, composer, recording artist, and educator.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk to her about her life of music and hopefully extract some inspiration, advice, insight, and just general knowledge about what her journey has been like pursuing her music. I'm really excited to talk to her. Like I say, music is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. Hi, Becky.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me today.
Sure. I like to talk about music too. So
that's good. So that works out. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good.
All right.
So, what are you doing nowadays? What kind of projects are you working on?
I feel like I've just kind of been head in the clouds lately, just because I've done some grant writing and I have another grant to work on, but just trying to imagine new projects and hopefully they will work out.
Grant writing.
Yeah.
Did you apply for the Creative Renewal?
Yes.
Yeah, I just did that one too.
Okay.
It's draining.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of writing, especially when you
writing.
have so many words or characters.
Right.
And it's like an equation. You have to.
And if you change one sentence in one of the questions, then you have to redo the other questions to match it up. And
do you enjoy writing?
When I have an exciting idea, I've written poetry, stories, blogs, and some of them I'm very excited about, and I was happy to write. I've written a lot of things about just teaching moments that I'm like, oh, I wish people could have been there to see this amazing thing that just happened, and I was so happy to be part. What?
So while teaching, you
while
have experiences?
Teaching, and a lot of them were just reminders for me to be quiet and allow the student to learn instead of trying to put myself onto them, instead of trying to let them have a discovery.
Yeah.
And those are the chill-inducing times. Like, oh, I'm so glad that I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And let them discover it themselves. And that's when I like to write the story down.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, do you teach piano primarily?
Teach piano, and I've taught composition on the university level, and I've taught pretty much every student I have to write just by saying, why don't you write something? I just like to plant the idea, and then they do. They all do. They all do.
Because, write their own music?
Yeah, because I believed in them.
Yeah.
So
you're just encouraging them.
Yeah.
To get out there.
I don't say, well, there's only certain people that can write. Beethoven could, Mozart could, but most of the rest of us can't. I don't say that. I say, do it. Do it.
Try it.
Yeah, make something for your mom. Like that's what I did. That's how I started. I wrote something for my mom.
That's how you got started with piano?
With writing music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't write anything until I was 35, and because it didn't occur to me, I didn't have someone that said, write something. Nobody said that to me. It was always play music written by men who are no longer with us. That's all I did. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason why I'm always encouraging people, write your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Have your own voice.
Interesting. What age group do you teach?
Well, my youngest was 4.5, but usually I say 5.5. My youngest was 4.5. That was my son.
Wow. Okay.
But it was all fun and games.
Man, what did you try to teach them? Because I have small children. And trying to teach them is just try to teach them to sit for like 10 seconds.
I just try to show them that the piano is a fun toy, and then they can explore on it. And so I do a lot of copying. Like I'll just make a silly sound, or I'll say, "Oh, look, there's a squirrel," and I'll make a little squirrely sound. And then they'll see an animal, and they'll, just know that they can use it as a fun toy. Mm-hmm. And so I teach them improvisation right away.
I see.
And then I have adults. I think my oldest adult was 84. So I have a wide range.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Was that older person just learning, or?
I think so. I'm trying to remember if she... I don't think she'd had piano lessons. I don't know if she'd played an instrument or not. But I loved working with her, and then she became ill and hasn't come back. But she was somebody I wrote about all the time because she was so open-minded and excited about learning, and I remember that she wanted to learn Happy Birthday. And so she wasn't reading music yet, but she would write down the letters sometimes, or she would find her own way to keep track of it. So I said, well, I mean, it can start in any key. If we could start like da-da-da-da, on the key, the note G.
Yeah.
And then I said, how do you want to keep track of it? And she said, oh, I'm good. I'll figure it out from there. Started with the G. Came back the next week, she had it all figured out. And that was another time that it was like, I am so happy that I stayed out of it and let her discover it, because that's what she wanted. I could have said, now the next note is a da 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 da, write it all down and do what I say. And instead, she said, I'll figure it out. And I said, great. And she did it. So a lot of teaching is just not is listening. A lot of teaching is listening.
See it just being, you're there to answer questions.
Yeah.
Like if a student has a question.
Yes, certain questions I don't answer. Certain questions I help them find the answer. Like, I know it probably drives some kids crazy, but I never tell them what a note is. If they say, what's that note? I ask them questions. What is it close to? What I keep finding ways to help them find it, but I don't just say, oh, that's a F sharp. I never tell them.
Interesting. Yeah.
I let them, I know they can figure it out.
Right.
So where's a good place to start so you can climb up and know what that is? And then they eventually get it.
So that's been effective then.
Oh, very, very, very effective.
Experience.
Yeah.
How long have you been teaching?
Gosh. I had students when I was still in high school. So I was 16 when I started, and then I stopped for a while. And then when I was working on my master's program, then I had some students again, and I was teaching in schools, doing an after-school program. And then when we moved here, my son was 1. No, my son was 2 months old, and wow. I waited till he was about 4.5.
Where did you live then? Where did you move from?
Oh, from California. Long Beach,
Okay.
California.
And that's where you're from?
No, I'm from Anderson.
From Anderson. Okay.
Yeah, but my husband and I lived in California, Southern California, gradually moving toward Long Beach, which was where I got my master's degree. And
Oh, wow.
that was our last place to live, and that's where my son was born, and then we moved back here.
So did you move? You moved to Long Beach to go get your
Well,
master's degree?
we moved. We started. My husband was getting a master's in Pasadena, but we didn't live in Pasadena. We lived an hour from there for some crazy reason. But we lived in Riverside County, and then we just kind of kept gradually getting closer and closer to the beach. And then I was in Garden Grove. We were in Garden Grove when I started the master's program, and then we moved closer. So for the second year, I was close enough. I was, close to the school, much closer to the school.
And then so okay. So after your master's degree, is that when that's when you decided?
Yeah, right after. I turned in my thesis, gave birth.
Right. And then, man.
And then went to the doctor, got Taylor his 2-month shots in his thighs, and then we got in the car and drove.
Was that something else that inspired you to move back here to Indiana, having a baby?
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Just wanting him to know his family and his grandparents. And we were, each move, we were in a smaller and smaller place. So the last place we lived in Long Beach was a 1-bedroom. And the living room was filled with the grand piano.
And that's when you had getting closer to the beach.
Yeah.
The houses get smaller.
Yeah, it wasn't a house, it was an apartment. And,
yeah.
I remember getting yelled at by the person above me who didn't appreciate my practicing.
Your piano.
He actually said, "Cut the piano." That was his words.
Well, that's like the downfall of living in an apartment.
Yes.
If you have some kind of musical obsession.
Yeah.
You can't really jam out.
Yeah. I don't know what he would have done if I was a drummer. Maybe he would have liked it. I don't know. But
Oh, yeah. Well, nowadays you can buy an electric drum set and have headphones.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know, back in the day, I think it was, I'm not sure when electric drums were introduced.
I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't either.
I'm just now studying drumming. So.
Oh, okay.
So what did you get your master's degree in?
Piano performance.
Piano performance.
Yeah. So I wasn't writing. That was at the time that didn't dawn on me to write music, and I love the classics. I love Chopin and Beethoven and all of them. Beethoven probably is number one, and then Chopin's Scarlatti, Gershwin, Brahms, Debussy.
I love
Chopin. All those.
I think Debussy's my favorite. When I heard Prelude à l'Après on one of his albums, I swear it transformed my brain. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It inspired my art too.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't see. I don't see
it's
how
like I can.
He makes colors in his music. Yeah.
Interesting. So, and Chopin is. I don't know if I've ever heard anything of his, but
piano music.
Piano music.
He was called the poet of the piano.
Okay, interesting.
And just beautiful. And as a composer, looking at some of his music, there are places where I think, when you're putting together ideas and you need to go from one place to another, sometimes I create a whole section just to be the bridge. Sometimes, but I see places in Chopin where he does it in one little measure. He just does this amazing, and all of a sudden you've walked through one room and you're in another room, and he does it so effortlessly. Like, how did he do that? And just so magically in one little measure, when sometimes it takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but whatever that process is, it has to sound natural. It's not right. So whether it takes one measure or 26 measures, that's what I work at, is to make those bridges right.
Make them right. Mm-hmm. I wonder like how long. I wonder if he was just good at that, or if he would just obsess over getting that done in one measure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to listen to it now.
Yeah.
Now that you mention that.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't like everyone was in one measure, but just
Right.
I remember seeing that one piece and thinking, that's so clever. I hope I can do that.
And now, did you have to learn all this music whenever you're getting your master's degree in piano performance? What was that like?
Well, I mean, you kind of build on where you were, so whatever. I mean, I know that when I was getting my undergrad, I steered clear of Bach, Mozart, because I felt like they were expose you so much. Like everyone's gonna know if you make a mistake. Everyone will know. And my teacher made me aware of the contemporary composers of the day. Mm-hmm. And I loved learning this new music because nobody will know if I make a mistake. And I just thought it was
clever.
I enjoyed the interesting dissonances and just and like the teacher would say, you're gonna like that the more you hear it, and just any kind of new juxtaposition. The more you see it, the more you hear it, the more you taste it, the more you go, I'm growing to like this, and now I really, really like it, even though at first I wasn't sure.
Of course. Because it's like your brain has to get molded in a new way.
Yeah.
Whenever you hear something
right,
new or different, contemporary.
So I do a lot of recording my improvisations, and when I go back, I listen for what sounds fresh, what sounds unique, and what I like the next day and what I like the next day, because it intrigued me, not what sounds pretty or expected or what other people will like. It's more like whatever's intriguing to me. If I like it the next day, then I'll start working with it.
That's a good way to do it, because if you're still, even after a week, if you're still thinking about it and you're obsessing over it, then something's clicked on that part.
Right.
So
anyway, I didn't quite answer your question about the master's program. Then I went ahead and started tackling music that I was afraid of.
Good.
And so for my master's recital, I played a Bach piece, Prelude and Fugue, and I remember thinking, I didn't make any mistakes. And I'm afraid to go back and listen to the tape because it's, it's so not about right notes, but was the phrasing? How was the phrase? You could play all the right notes, push all the right notes at the right time, and still it's not music. It's not speaking to someone. It's not connecting. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't aware at the time of the phrasing, or there's just so much more to it.
What do you mean by phrasing?
Like just hearing music in groups, almost like sentences. Da 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 dum. Da 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 dum. Da da dum.
So each of those would be a phrase.
Yeah. So just like how we speak. We speak sentences or we speak groups. We don't speak individual notes.
The word phrase then.
And a lot of Bach. If you look at the sheet music, it can have every single note is an eighth note, or every single note is a 16th note. So it's like all the way to the end, and you bomb. So you have to find ways to understand groups of it, so you can make musical sense out of it, or else it's just a bunch of eighth notes or 16th notes. But I didn't really think that way then, as I do now. As teachers encouraged me after I had my master's to notice the phrasing that's there. That I never thought of it that way.
Oh, okay. So just becoming aware that those are phrases.
Yeah. And that you could hear it one way one day, and you could hear it another way another day. I mean, there's a lot of them are commonly understood, but I don't know, kind of getting.
It's okay. That's what I want.
Okay. Yeah. Well, when I'm working with students, and when I'm, just working on my own music, or if I'm working on some classical music, I'm looking for places I can breathe.
Like what?
Like this da 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 dum, and then I want to repeat that, or like I might have a phrase that looks like it starts on a main beat, but it's really on an off beat.
Uh-huh.
And when I phrase it that way, so instead of
so the note would start on an offbeat.
Yeah.
On the measure.
So it would start on a the or a or a if, or it would start on a little word like the chicken crossed the road. If I wrote the chicken crossed the road, chick would be on B1, not the. So the would be on the measure before. And
okay.
And then I would work on that little phrase to improve on it as I'm practicing it. And where often students will start the phrase on chick, like when you got to include the to make it
I see.
Sing properly.
Nice. Let's get complex. Because I asked you some questions in the email about like odd time signatures and what does it mean to be like 6/8 time? Like what is it? And then how does math relate to all of that? I don't know if that's something you're interested in. Or...
Well, the math thing, that one was a hard one to figure out, because people always said, well, you're good at music because you're good at math. And I excelled at math, but to me they're not related. And I mean, just like a recipe has numbers and measurements, so does music and math. But I think I'm curious about what a mathematician would say about music. But I don't have any good ways of. I guess I don't have passion for math.
Huh.
So that's why I didn't continue with it, even though I was really good at it.
So my favorite band,
Okay.
they actually just released a new album, and they're known for using odd time signatures, and the drummer is known for incorporating geometric symbols into his drumming.
Okay.
And it's just like infinite curiosity to me. I don't know how he does it. That's why I'm trying to learn drumming now. So I'm just curious. It's like just curious for me. How is a geometric shape, like a hexagram, how can that be used in drumming? Like, I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
but the mixed meter, the odd time signatures. Once in a while, I might have a goal of I want to write something in 5/4 time. I remember when Brubeck passed away, and I was walking and I was thinking about Take 5. Do you know the Brubeck?
Brubeck? Who is that?
What's his first name? I'm embarrassed. A real famous jazz composer, pianist.
Was he local?
No.
Okay.
Probably from New York. I can't think of his name. Dave Brubeck wrote it, or his band, someone in his band actually wrote the piece, Take 5. I think that was the saxophone player. But I remember thinking, I want to write something that floats as well as Take 5 in 5/4 time. Because when you hear Take 5, you don't go, oh, that's odd. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's right. And so I wrote this piece called 5/4-3-2-1. And to me, it does. It works. It floats. And it's right. And I've written other things like I sent you a video.
Yeah,
piece.
I watched that like 3 or 4 times today. It
And
was really pretty.
Oh, thank you. It's called Solace.
Solace, yes.
And I wrote the piano part first. I wrote the piano part quite a while back. It was when I was writing music for a short film. And And it goes, I don't know if I can really explain it, but it's like la 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 la. So those are the groups. That's 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and so that fourth beat gets an extra length.
Right. I was going to ask, what's the 4 then? Like there's 5. I can see the 5.
So if I did it in 4, it would be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and la. Mm-hmm. So I would have gone to the next group sooner, but I wanted that to remain. I didn't know I was writing it in 5/4. I just knew what the sound was. Then when I went back to write it, it was, this has to be 5/4 time because this needs to be lengthened.
But what does the 4 mean? Like there's 5 and then 4.
So 4 is just how you draw it. Like if you're drawing a quarter note, if you're counting quarter notes, there's 5 quarter notes.
5 quarter notes.
Yeah, if it's 5/8, then it's 5/8 notes. So shorter. Like that would either be 5 quarter notes or 10/8 notes. What I was saying. So, so you had asked about 6/8 time. That's 6/8 notes. So shorter beats. But it also indicates.
That makes so much more sense now.
It also
I've had musical training, but like that was in middle school. I don't really think they ever explained that, or they did, and I just don't remember.
Well, I try to think like a conductor, how they would wave their arms. So like in 6/8, we are taught that it's a compound meter, and it's really in 2, which is kind of like what?
Wait, say it again. 6/8 time.
6/8 is
it's a compound meter.
It's a compound meter, and it's really in 2, like a conductor, like. I need a better example.
They have different beat.
So it'd be like
hand motions that they
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Row, row, row your boat. Rather than row, row. Connect every beat. They would just row, row, row your boat. Dun, 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 dun. So each main beat is split into 3 instead of 2. Often, like the one I was singing earlier, that mine called Solace, each main beat is split into 2 beats.
Yeah.
La 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 la, and that would have to be conducted in 5.
And that's just in one. That's like in one measure, though.
Yeah.
5
beats, 5 quarter notes in one measure, or 10/8 notes.
5 quarter notes.
Or the equivalent of that.
So if it's in 3/4 time, it's 3 quarter notes.
Yes.
3/8 would be 3/8 notes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for clearing it up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That'll help me a little bit. Not sure why I need it right now, but.
But this one called Solace, I later added this violin part, and I sent you the duet.
Yeah.
And when you hear the violin, it could not have happened if I hadn't written it in 5/4 time, because during that la 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 la, that long la, that's when the violin sings, and there wouldn't have been room for the violin to sing what it sings if I hadn't have elongated that.
So you thought of this tune first,
yeah,
and then when you sat down to write it,
then I figured out because there's like 3 measures of 5/4, and then it switches to 4/4, and then it goes back to 5/4.
Is that a common thing for the time signatures to have different time signatures in songs, or?
I mean, people say like Mozart, when he was 5, he wrote in mixed meter. Well, all 5-year-olds do. I mean,
it's a good argument.
They're creative. They're not in boxes. They're not. It has to fit in each box. They figure stuff out, and then we talk about how would we organize it, and then we have to often mix the meters, because that's how you organize it.
Okay.
It just didn't just didn't work phrase-wise to have it. It would just be more confusing to have it be in the boxes of 4 beats to measure.
What was your inspiration? Why did you call it Solace? Which I said, I realized I was saying Solace on my podcast.
I don't know. It's so peaceful. I don't know.
I think of the word comforting,
yeah,
relaxing, because that's why I chose the name Artist Solace. Okay. And I was pronouncing it Solace, and someone said, it's pronounced Solace. But I was like, oh, I've been pronouncing it like that.
Yeah.
So
if you say Solace, they might think it's Souless without soul.
Oh.
So you might want to go back to Solace.
Another interesting point.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that, coincidental that the violinist that's on that video, his name's Dean Franca, he and I play at Eskenazi Hospital sometimes. They have a concert series. And I always want to start with Solace. I was like, it's like blessing the place. And we start with that one, and it's kind of healing and calming.
Yeah.
And then we do some, crazier, jazzier ones, and yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's
a nice intro.
Yeah.
And it's not it's not like, it's nothing, it's not expected, but it's still comforting. Mm-hmm. It's not the usual thing, but there's something really comforting about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the word. I was actually inspired. I was looking through the dictionary to figure out, what I could call this podcast. And I happened to find a picture of my daughter in the dictionary under solar. My daughter's name is Solara.
Huh.
And so when I was looking for the name to name this podcast, I looked and found that picture of her.
Yeah.
And then I started looking. I was like, it was one of those moments I think this is a sign. I'm going to look to see what words are here. Yeah. And then I found solace, and it was like comfort, relief. And what artist doesn't need that? So
Right.
So that was perfect. And then I heard your song, and I was like, that sounds just like the word. Mm-hmm. So it's a perfect name.
Yeah.
It's really pretty.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
Look up Becky Archibald right now on your phone if you want to pause. Yeah. Becky Archibald Solace.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, we submitted it for the NPR Tiny Desk.
Yeah, I saw that
series.
Subtitle. What was that? NPR Tiny Desk concert?
They have a contest every year where you send them a video, and you have to have a desk in your video. So I have this little tiny.
I saw that.
Computer keyboard tray on wheels that my dad made for me.
Oh.
And that's the tiny desk. That's why it's in there.
Did you win?
No, we didn't win. Yeah. They say, a homemade video is just fine. And so, I just pushed the button and ran to the piano, and we taped it and went back and pushed the button. But people send some really fancy videos in.
I can see that.
There's a lot of competition. But
Right. I see. Now, you said you play at Eskenazi?
Yeah.
How often?
Yeah. Oh, about every other month.
Is that for residents? Residents?
It is piped into their rooms, or not, they can watch it on their TV screens.
I see.
Thankfully.
Absolutely. And then who else do you play with? Do you play with the same people, or is it just a commission?
For at Eskenazi or
Eskenazi.
It's been Dean and I the violinist. We've done a lot of concerts there. So yeah, he's my favorite partner.
How long have you been working with him? And where did you meet him?
And I love all my other people too. But we first met, I want to say, 12, 15 years ago. I started writing music 22 years ago. And how did I end up? I think my first commission was for a French horn piece. And I told the French horn player, I don't I've never written for another instrument. But he asked me to write for a sextet of It was like oboe, French horn, percussion, and so I did. I wrote that, and then I had written a piano piece, and I played it. I played it on the air. I used to go to Nashville once a year, Nashville, Tennessee, and play on this radio show. It was a classical show where they would play, like they'd have two guests. One was a classical artist and one was a jazz artist. They would have me in, I forget which side I was on because it was all my music. So I was kind of mixed up. But that same show, they had this cellist playing, and I loved how he smiled throughout his playing. He was so much fun to watch, his joy. And I saw that this Nashville composers group was having a competition, and if you won, then you would have your piece played on the air on this show. Well, I'd written this piano piece, and there was the time was like you had submitted in 4 days or something. Like, I have nothing. So I had this piano piece called Spring, and I wrote a cello part to go with it. And I wrote it in 2 days, and I submitted it, and I won.
Wow.
Yeah. And so got to play with that cellist. That cellist played it with me.
You had to play in Nashville?
Yeah,
Nice.
on the air. And so where am I going? What was the question?
I can't remember it. I'm like, wait, this is so interesting.
I wish I could remember what we were talking about, how I got there. But you were asking how I met Dean.
Okay.
So then I started writing more string music. Now that I knew I could. I mean, everything was a new discovery. I can write for piano. Yay! I can write my music. I can write for French horn. I didn't know that. I can write for percussion. Cool. People want to play what I write. So then I wrote the cello piece, and then I wrote a string quartet for the next time that this Nashville group had a competition for the radio show. I won that one with my first string quartet, and got to have a really great quartet group from Nashville play that on the air. Well, when I wrote it, before I submitted it, I contacted a cellist friend who I'd just met because I'd written that cello piece. And she said, I'll get a group of the ISO musicians to read through it. So I drove down to the Hilbert Circle Theater, and Dean was the violinist that read it that day. That's how I met him. And they all loved it, and I won. And then anytime I had something for violin, he was always my first person that I would contact. And he's also a jazz player. So when I started writing jazz, he was and had my first jazz performance. He played on that performance.
Awesome. When did you get interested in jazz? Had you been playing classical most of your life?
Yeah, I'd always played classical. When I was writing, though, I was improvising a lot and studying my improvisation. And jazz is about improvisation. So one of my son's friends came over, and his dad came to pick him up and saw that I had the piano, and he said, oh, I play bass. And I said, we should play together sometime. And so I ended up playing something for him. I don't think he didn't have his bass with him. I just played a piece.
Bass guitar or string bass?
String bass.
String bass.
And I forget how I worded it. It was like, we could, would you want to play on this piece with me sometime? And he goes, I don't know what you're doing. And I was like, but you're an improviser. Aren't you supposed to understand what I'm doing? So I knew nothing about jazz. I didn't know that there was a skeleton of, there's a roadmap that everyone knows what the map is, and then you can do a lot of improvisation off of that. But everyone is in measure 1 at the same time, and everyone's in measure 4 at the same time, and everyone is in the same measure at the same time. But to just have no idea, And what
and he could tell that. That's
and he's like, well, I don't know what you're doing. And so that was one of my first, I want to find out how do I play with other people? I don't know. I just thought that they would just start playing with me. I didn't know what I needed to know.
Wow.
So I went to a jazz workshop, and there was a pianist and a bass player, no, guitar player, drummer. I forget. It was just two people visiting from New York, and after they played, they had question and answer time. Question time. I had a question, and the pianist said, "Sometimes you just have to enjoy the mysteries." I was so mad that I learned jazz. I was so mad about his answer. Instead of...
Wait, what was your question?
I don't remember the question. I just remember him refusing to answer and telling me I should just enjoy the mystery because he knew the answer and he's smarter than me. And I just was livid. And I needed to know. So I ended up getting that Creative Renewal Grant in 2007.
Yes.
And went to study jazz.
Really?
Yes.
Anywhere particular? Where'd you go?
France.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I did read that.
Yeah.
Somewhere on your bio.
Right.
I didn't know that was from
Yeah.
the grant proposal.
I had Googled Europe Jazz School and found it and applied and got in and went there, and it changed my life. I wrote a piece there. We performed it as a quartet. I'm with people from all over the world. We had a great reaction from the audience. I was so inspired. I just kept writing. I just wrote like crazy because of that. And then I kept going back to present my music, and then I was teaching composition there. And yeah.
Was this throughout the year? Was it a year?
It's just. You mean the place in France?
Fellowship.
Oh, the fellowship. I mean, you have a year and a half, I think. So I went during that time period.
I see.
And then I just kept going because it was so inspiring, and it just kept me inspired, and I kept writing because of it and exploring more ways I could break the rules and learn the rules of jazz.
And you learned at a school.
Yeah, it's a summer school. It's in the southwest. It's in the countryside, and it's not a school building, and it's just a 1 week thing. It's not like they're not there all year. It's people mainly from UK who come in and teach. But it's a little rundown castle, actually, that's 800 years old, and it's in a little, not even quite a village. It's so small.
And you just researched this online?
Yeah,
and found that?
yeah. And other people did too. Other people who, when we asked around, how did you find out? Well, I found it online.
Yeah.
And I'd written a story about it that was in the Indianapolis Star, and that's still posted on their website, the story I wrote about it. And
nice.
Lots of people say, I came because of your story.
Wow.
Because of how much it moved me, that place. Yeah.
Just like, so what moved you about it? Teachers, the setting,
gosh,
the feeling,
just so many
spiritual.
things. So many things. There were a lot of the teachers were excellent. I remember this one teacher. He still goes. He's the only one from France. Guitarist, amazing guitarist. I loved watching him. Just the way he flows when he plays, and he wears flowy clothes, and he has flowy hair, and he's music. He is music.
Yeah.
And we did this session where it was all and he started, I don't know, we started something, and he just was having us improvise around the room, and we were just making things up, but it was actually working.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that guy that came over and he didn't know what he was doing. We improvised for 30 minutes as a big, large group in this second floor of this old castle. and he was up kind of directing it and kind of dancing and playing. And when we were finished, he said, "That's what music is." And people burst out crying. It was just like, wow. I mean, to get such a positive reaction from such an amazing musician, and to have him put us with him, like, we think of him as the ultimate, and he's saying, "You all made music with me. You all, this is what it is. This is music."
Wow.
That was one really cool thing. And then that combined with the beauty of the countryside, the quietness, where the first time I went there, I was like, it feels like I'm in a Hitchcock movie because I can only hear the gravel under my feet. I can't hear, there is no sound there. You might see a car way, way, way far, but you can't hear them. It was farmland, like plum orchards, but not cows. So you couldn't hear animals mooing or anything. It was just quiet, beautiful, and then everyone's there for the music, so you're just having these long conversations about music with other music geeks.
Yeah.
And then the later at night it is, the more people imbibe, and then the conversation gets super deep about music, and just a great bonding experience. People I still stay in touch with, and it's like they're my other family.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really. Have you ever gone? Do you plan on maybe going back? Or
like I was saying, I've gone back.
You've gone back
many times.
Okay, that's what
to teach and present. So, yeah, I've written over 100 jazz pieces because of that place, and I've dedicated music to many of the people there. Like I have this gang of these ridiculously funny British men who are all 10 years or so older than me. And I wrote something for one of them, and then I wrote something for another one, and then they kept asking me. One time this guy slipped me a piece of paper, and it said, "Let's try it a second time." And I was like, and he goes, "Well, just, maybe you can write something." So I wrote this piece called "Let's Try It a Second Time." And it turned out really well. And then he got to premiere it the next year on drums. He was the drummer for the piece. And then another one said, "I want you to write me," and if I could do a British accent, it'd be much better. But "I want you to write me a 13-bar blues." A blues is normally 12 measures.
Yeah.
A 13-bar blues in the key of F that's called "There's a Frog in the Pool," because there was a frog in the pool. Like, all right, so I did that.
Absurd. Let's do it.
I did it, and he loved it. And that's another one. I think it's online. There's a Frog in the Pool.
Yeah,
it's really fun, and you can hear it ribbiting. Yeah, the bass, the Barry sax is ribbiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real fun.
I looked through your biography, like your website.
Okay.
And as I just started reading through it, I'm like, this lady's done a lot of stuff. We meet each other, outside, like we're at an event. You meet people, you meet artists,
right.
and then,
you
don't really know
about
to what extent
yeah.
their experience is like, but it's pretty impressive. I saw you've been making CDs for 20 years now? What have you?
Yeah, because my first one was 1999.
I call them CDs. Do you consider them albums?
I always think of albums as big things.
Yeah.
But I make
record,
CDs.
Maybe.
So I think of records as big, as a record player, and CDs as the little things. So,
mm-hmm. So this is definitely
I've made
something.
6 CDs. Yeah.
This is definitely something you've been doing full time, like since. Have you been doing it since graduate school?
Yeah.
That's amazing. When did you realize when did you get interested in music? When did you realize you wanted to play?
We had a piano at home, and my parents say that I would play a toy xylophone learn songs on it, either from a little book, either with, I think, all the things that you hit, what are they called? The xylophone bells, whatever the...
I don't know. Keys? I don't know.
There's a name for it, but they were all different colors, so either I learned from color, number, sound, I don't know. They don't remember how I learned songs, and then I would transfer it to the piano.
How old were you?
Oh, 3, 4. And then I started taking piano lessons at 5. And I remember I begged for lessons for a year. So between 4 and 5, I was begging to take piano lessons. So I just was attracted to it. And my parents were my parents were both musicians, but they weren't professional musicians. They just loved music, and they met by playing in the band in high school. My dad plays trombone, my mom plays French horn. And so I heard them practice, and it was just important to them. They taught us, every folk song in the book. We were always singing, the Eensy Weensy Spider, all those kinds of songs. That's what my parents did.
It's like been the main song in my house for the past 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, that's how we. That's why we love
so
music, because they made it fun.
They were obviously encouraging.
Very, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the perfect way. I tell parents who want their children to start taking lessons when they're 3. I'm like, sing to them, sing to them, sing to them, sing to them. That's the best thing you can do. Then they know, you make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the Eensy Weensy Spider, there's a piece online that so the second year that I was in this spirituality and the arts initiative, it was through Butler and CTS, and now it's through IUPUI or Humanities. They have a new relationship. But the second year I wrote, it's called Hums with Mother Earth, and I have it online, but each movement is based on the rhythm of a children's nursery song, and one of them is based on Eensy Weensy Spider. It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool. Because my little conceit was that perhaps, because the theme was Adam and Eve and creation, and so my conceit was perhaps the music that we have no idea who wrote it, Eensy Weensy Spider, these old folk songs, maybe they were invented in the Garden of Eden, but they had a dark side too. There was a lot more depth to them.
Yeah.
And then they evolved over the years into something easy and floaty, or they became more simplistic. But back then they were deep and dark. So that's what I wrote.
Well, they say the Ring Around the Rosie song is about the Black Plague.
Okay.
That's what I used to hear.
When
you talk about
these the mulberry
lighthearted songs.
Wrote one of my mulberry bush one was called Mulberry Blues, and it's very dark. So anyway, I'll have to.
What was that called?
Hums with Mother Earth.
I'm gonna write that down.
Okay, and there are 6 movements, and the one I'm talking about is maybe the 4th movement, called how did I call it? And then it dawned. And then it dawned is the name of the Eensy Weensy Spider one.
And then it dawned.
Yeah. The first movement is called Now Introducing, and it introduces the Adam and Eve characters. And in the video, it's kind of fuzzy, but I'm at the piano and the violinist is off stage, and you hear this violin noise coming, and then he starts walking in and he's playing part of a theme that he can't finish because it hasn't met Eve yet, and I'm playing something that I can't finish because I haven't met him yet. And then when we meet, we both are able to complete our thoughts, and so then we weave our themes together.
Wow.
And that's just a really short movement, and then we take that idea and we deepen it and darken it in a later movement. And that one is based on, which I was pretty proud of myself. It's based on, did you ever see a lassie? Did you ever see a lassie go this way and that?
Dude, I thought have you ever seen Lassie? Like the movie? Like, I don't know.
So I thought it was pretty funny that, that's where I got the rhythm. But it was like, hey, Adam, have you ever seen a lassie? Well, here's Eve.
I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to listen to a lot of your stuff. 'Cause it seems like you have a wide range of work.
Yeah. Well, I'm always trying to find my first piece was called Searching. I'm still searching. I'm always searching for what's the next. It's not, where would I be if I'd said, oh, Searching was so successful, I'm going to make every piece like Searching. Instead, I'm going to make the next piece different than what I've done before. I want it to be different. I want each one to be a new twist. I got to find something different.
So, I don't know, I want to say, what are you searching for? Do you have, you obviously seem successful right now. Do you have, a higher aim that you're shooting for? Do you see yourself becoming bigger than what you are, or what?
Well, I'm not. I feel happy with what I've written, but I'm not really well known, and I'm not. I'm always looking for another commission. I'm still having to struggle with the monetary side. But I always. I feel like I can't stop writing. I always feel like I need to be a role model, that I need to be an example for kids or anybody that's watching, that's people that say, and if I'm going to tell people that they should explore their creativity, then I should be continuing to explore mine, But I like the violinists I play with. We want to tour in Europe. We want to perform. That's one of my big goals, is to get out there. Get out there. So what I tend to do is, I don't want anyone to hear this. I tend to do is, I strive for something and it falls through, and then I get depressed, and then I write music to get me out of the depression, because music lifts me up.
Yeah.
The writing of it, the search for the next note is so intriguing and exciting that it can pull me out of. But then, I should have been doing more, just like making phone calls, looking for my next gig. Yeah.
That's part of it. That's one of the themes I think all artists struggle with.
Yeah.
It's so you explained it like you have a goal and it fell through, and then you're down for a while, and that's the tough part.
It is.
But what gets you, what gets you past that?
And writing is the only thing. I had to do a gig where I was playing. They needed a lot of piano music, and I was relearning a lot of stuff that I'd written, because I hadn't done a lot of solo work lately, solo performing, because now that I've been doing more chamber writing and jazz, I like playing with people, and I'm just kind of over playing by myself. I'm just over it. But someone needed me to play a set of, I think it was an hour or two of piano. No, it was an hour. So I had to, hurry and relearn a lot of stuff that I thought would make a nice grouping, and I forget what I was talking about. Oh, it was just that it's it's not as it's more fun to be writing a new thing than it is to be relearning something I wrote a while back. Even though I love it, I'd rather be
Well, it brings
exploring.
to mind the idea that you're at such a level of competence that you need to keep pushing yourself to keep yourself engaged.
Yeah.
And to keep you on the edge and
Right.
make you anxious and excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, if you're just doing the same thing over, playing the middle C scale over and over again, it's going to get boring.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm happy to revisit what I've written, and I'm proud of the work.
I get that.
And some of them I think have really stood the test of time, and some of them I'm like, that worked to them, and I'm not really into that. I don't really want to show that piece. But some of them, like the one called Searching, my son, it's his favorite piece, so I always have to keep that one up because he loves that he was there hearing me work on it.
Yeah, it's meaningful.
When he was,
more meaning attached to it. Now that
so
he's
he's
20,
he'll be 29, so he would have been 7 when I was writing it. And he remembers.
Mm-hmm.
And, didn't talk about it at the time, but yeah, it has a lot of meaning to him.
Do you think of him, like whenever you listen to it or think of it, do you immediately think of him?
Yeah.
That's cute.
It's very exciting
Mm-hmm.
that he likes to have these deep conversations about music with me because of that piece.
So whenever you say deep conversation, what excites you about it? Like I think in the email I asked you if maybe you're not, I asked you about the neuroscience of music, and then if you're not interested in that, what is it about music that you think is fascinating? Or do you know?
That was
maybe you
a hard
don't know.
one to answer because I was thinking, what if I had excelled at art, when I was 5? What if that's what I played with more, and what if that's what people said you're really good at? I didn't really get that. Like, I got a B in art class, so I must be terrible. But with piano, with music, people were always like, wow, ever since I was little. So then I was just trying to imagine what would it be like to not have this power at my fingertips that I have. I have power here.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't quite imagine what it would be like without it. And
so it's just pretty much what you do, so you can't really determine what it is about it.
Right. Well, and sometimes I think it's really strange because I'm a very visual person and I'm a terrible listener. I will remember everything about your face. If I've met someone once, I recognize them, and I scare people because I've recognized them. I saw my best friend from first grade, who grew up in Lafayette, Indiana. When we were living in California, I saw her at a market, at a street market, and I was like, "That's my friend from first grade." And I talked to her, and she remembered me, but she was saying like, she just thought it was kind of weird. But I have to remind myself to listen to people because I'm staring at them and I'm not listening. So it's just funny. Why didn't I do art? Because I'm so visual. How did I end up? And then I think, is it possible that I would have never been happy with my art because I'm so visual? It never would have satisfied me. I wonder. I would have never been good enough.
It's a great question.
I don't know.
Because I don't know to what extent you can get obsessed with your music, but from my experience with visual art, I had been pursuing it for 15 years and recently just gave it up.
Oh.
But it's hard. I don't know. It's hard because you can get so detailed and so obsessed. And
well, same with music. I mean, but when I'm writing it, I'm thinking, this makes no sense. I don't know. I don't know if I can piece it together. I don't know what it is. Like this piece I wrote called "Tango for Disobedient Beasts." I didn't send you that, did I?
No.
That's a 3-movement piece. I wrote it because I read a poem about. It's just called Tango, written by an Argentinian poet, and he referred to women as obedient beasts, and it just gave me the title right there.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be a disobedient beast. So I wrote. So it's 3-movement piece, but as I'm writing it, I don't even know. I don't know it's 3 movements. I'm just writing stuff down. I don't know it's going to be a violin piano piece either until one day it dawns on me. This could work for violin, and then I start piecing it together. And then when it's done, I go, how in the world did I realize that? Because at the time it made no sense. I'm writing another piece now, and I'm thinking, this makes no sense, but I'm gonna keep at it until I know I'll figure it out. But right now it's. What is it? I don't know what it is.
That's how, I think what we were talking about earlier, push yourself beyond your
Yeah.
current level of competence. You shouldn't know what you're doing, maybe.
Exactly. And the more kind of fuddled your brain is, the better. If you can allow it. It's hard. It's hard to be in that confusing state, but that's
chase that unfamiliar, uncomfortable.
Well, like
feeling.
Writers that I admire put themselves purposely in impossible situations they have to get out of. Like when I read Les Mis, was it Les Mis or Count of Monte Cristo? Maybe it was both. I don't know. Count of Monte Cristo.
Good book.
The whole scene in the prison. Do you remember that?
I don't know.
Oh, you haven't read it?
No.
Oh, I won't give it away. But
I'm probably not going to.
You read that. It's amazing, but you think there's no way he can get out of this, and then a good writer will find a way out and make it seem natural. Just like I was talking about bridges, making a natural bridge in music. If you're watching a detective show on TV and they solve the mystery in a cheap way, it's like, But if they put themselves in a really hard situation and they find a way out that's like clever and it makes sense, then you're like, oh, that was fun. That was worthwhile. Good for them for making it so hard, and yet they found a way out.
Yeah. So that's what you would kind of say writing music is like for you.
Yeah.
Or what you're striving to do.
Right, is to go ahead and put yourself in a hard situation. It's hard, though. It makes it hard.
I know.
But then when you challenge yourself.
It's really hard to describe verbally. It is. The artistic process. Visually, like a visual artist, it's hard. That's why they're visual artists, because they can't verbally really explain what they're doing.
Yeah.
And music, too. Music's fascinating to me. It's still a realm I know how to play some instruments, but I think it's why I love to talk about it, because I'm so curious. You can't see it. I think I'm more fascinated with sound. Because we can see things, and maybe that's just not as exciting, like you were saying earlier. Maybe our vision is just here and now. We can see it, but with sound, we can't see it, and that's why it's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I still don't know how else to answer the question.
Absolutely.
Why did I pick that, or did it pick me?
We don't know.
Yeah.
It's just infinite curiosity.
Yeah.
Is what I call it.
Yeah.
So, now do you have anything, what would you say you could would be your most inspiring advice you could give to someone? Or what do you tell yourself? What inspires you? Who inspires you?
Authenticity.
Okay.
Anything authentic. Like, there's a guitarist. He's passed away recently. I forget his name. But when I first was writing music, I used to play on this radio show in town, and one of the guests was a guitar player, and he would do some really fascinating things with his arm on the guitar. His whole, like, what's this called?
Bicep.
Yeah, his bicep on the guitar. Just, it was
Like
so,
playing the strings?
yeah, like strumming. He just did some really earthy things that made sense. That were, he's so involved in his playing, and he wasn't trying to impress, or he was just being music, and I think about him when I think about how do I keep being authentic when I'm writing and playing. How do I get rid of any masks or try to look whatever, or when you're writing you want to be free, and when you're performing you want to be free and not be like, oh, I hope my mouth isn't hanging over my
Right.
or I'm
Hunched over,
or my hair's in my face. You want to erase all
tuning
that,
out all of that,
and just let it rip. So people that so in my grant proposal for the creative renewal, I talk about this word that I called duende. It's a Spanish word, and a Spanish poet spent 25 pages of trying to explain this one word that we don't have an English version of.
Okay.
I think his name's Garcia Lorca, but it's talking about this authenticity, and this thing that is both earthly and heavenly, and it kind of transforms you. And he said there was a flamenco dancer who was in her 80s who won a dance competition against people in their 20s and 30s because she had the posture, and she showed them how it's done. And she had the duende. She took over. It was completely authentic. It was nothing about, look at me, how cute I am, or it was just.
I see.
I love that. I love that story.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
So yeah, looking for.
You would encourage people to be authentic.
Yeah, and when you see it, you know it, and when you hear it, you know it.
Yeah.
Through any kind of artistic medium, you know when it's kind of put on, and you know when it's just raw and right, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely have to use that, It's hard just, just thinking of, say, like, trying to create a series of paintings.
Mm-hmm.
That's a challenge, trying to just remain authentic. And
Yeah.
what do I want to see? What colors do I want?
Yeah.
And how can I tune out all of the
what you should do, what you should do. Yeah. What's expected. And
yeah, I'll have to definitely think of that one now. If I want to start, painting again or drawing again.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Anything else you want to add for the listeners? I see you had some notes.
Let's see if I have any.
I know we didn't get through all of the questions
That's
I've
okay.
listed, but that was just some things to reflect on.
Oh, come on. I'm looking for my notes. Sorry. It just disappeared on me. Flipping around.
She's currently looking on her iPad. She also has a notebook and a binder. She came very prepared.
I don't have anything that I can think of right now.
That's fine.
That I feel like I have to talk about.
That was great. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Where can listeners find you online?
I have a website, BeckyArchibald.com. I am on Facebook. I have a Becky Archibald composer page, or maybe it's Becky Archibald composer pianist. I forget.
Can you spell your last name?
Archibald.
Okay.
I'm on CD Baby, and there's links on my website to get to my CDs. They're also on Amazon. What else? What other platforms were you asking about?
Oh, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, I don't have
Anything
Instagram.
on
I don't
Do you have
have
anything on Spotify? Do you have your music stream?
It is. Yeah.
Awesome. So would you call yourself a classical and a jazz pianist? Or improvisation, you said, is what you like too?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm put in the classical category.
Or do you have a hard time defining yourself? Because you're just...
It is hard to define.
Musician.
Yeah, it's like I'm just trying to create moods.
Yeah.
And colors and...
It's kind of like
make a story.
When people ask me, what kind of art do you do? I'm like, today?
Yeah.
Or like a year ago.
Right. 'Cause last week I was writing this really fun, jazzy little piece, and right now I'm writing a complex, dark. It's so different every time, but looking for the duende.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you have it, people. Be sure to look up Becky Archibald online. And do you have an email address? Like maybe if somebody has questions for you?
Becky Arch 2. Without the number sign, just 2. BeckyArch2@gmail.com.
Okay.
Tango for Disobedient Beasts is online too, if you want to find that one. That's a really nice video because WFYI made it.
Okay.
They came to the premiere, and they also made a documentary about the making of it. So I was talking to them before I was finished. So I was in my confused stage of, so there's clips of me still improvising and when I wasn't done.
So you're like in the confused stage.
Yeah. But I thought, well, it's we don't get to talk about that during the piece. We show our work when it's done.
Right.
We don't get to talk about what it feels like to be in the middle, which is it's good for people to know, to hear what it's like, not just about the success of I finished a book, but what it was like when you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah. That's the hidden part, the dark.
Yeah.
The dark part.
So I invited them to my home so I could share during the dark side, the dark part. Mm-hmm. Just in case it could give, someone else inspiration to do their thing.
Yeah. Well, cool. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, for joining me once again. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Definitely. I always want to have everybody back on because like an hour is not enough time to talk. You get really in deep conversation. I tend to prod people too. Like, what are you doing?
That's good.
What's this?
You did great.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for listening, and I hope you join me on the next episode of Artist Solace. And if you like this, then recommend it to a friend and share it. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.